Warbling in a New Direction. Chapter 6, Gossip Guys. Sebastian had been at his own home long enough to shower and put on clean jeans and his favorite t-shirt. No intent to do anything but lay on his bed, ignore his homework with headphones in, and play video games. Instead, he was forced into shoes and a coat and dragged off to Jeff's house, where his mother was meeting with Mrs. Sterling. For some reason, Sebastian couldn't fathom why he had to come too. When he got there, a good portion of the other Warblers were there shocked. "Holy crap, Jeff got you to join us. Jeff is magic," Chad muttered, mouth full of potato chips, making Sebastian grimace. He snagged a bottle of Zero sports drink, a fact that didn't go unnoticed by a few Warblers who had wondered why such a thing was even there, before tossing his coat in a chair and then himself over said chair. "Stupid, Jeff didn't tell me about your little hen party. Instead, he and my mother cooked up an excuse to get me here." Snorting, there was a smack to the back of his head as the door to Jeff's room opened and closed. "We love you too, Smythe." David sighed but smirked at the other who just raised his drink and went back to sipping it. He wondered if telling Sebastian that these were kept by Warblers for Kurt would make him drink them more or stop drinking them altogether. "So what are we gossiping about today, and can I put my headphones in to ignore it?" Sebastian smiled falsely at the group. "No," he got in reply from a good portion of those there. He scoffed, finishing off his drink, and snatched a light mocha frap from the mini fridge this time. He'd need more than vitamins and electrolytes to get through this. Nick watched Sebastian take a second beverage, originally purchased for their songbird, and snickered. When both had joined up, the two had complained at no end about the choices in drinks until someone broke down and kept what they considered more acceptable options around. The others followed. The video games on the TV were paused after Jeff joined them and a majority agreement was made that music was necessary. Because their Jeffy was a complete AV nerd, everything in his room and almost all of his electronics were compatible. So, it was only a matter of a few strokes on his wireless keyboard to pull up his computer desktop. The blonde had forgotten, however, that he had an open folder on said desktop. Frack. Wincing, he tried to close it before anyone could get a good look, but it was no luck. "Whoa. Do you have Kurt's performance today already?" Nick asked excitedly, before the blonde elbowed him viciously in the ribs. "Oof, Jeffy, that fracking hurt," he gasped, rubbing his side. Jeff could only groan. Kurt was going to kill him because there was no way to get out of this now. Open on his desktop had been a file named New Directions, and inside were some performances of each member, though the bulk were of Kurt and Santana. Jeff had a soft spot for Santana's voice. "Jeff, what was that, and why did seeing it make your other half think you had a performance that occurred less than 3 hours ago?" Wesley was frowning a little. He wasn't fond of secrets in his Warblers or, given recent behaviors, any sort of underhanded play. "We do not tape and study our competition. Warblers are better sportsmen than that, at least we were. If you have stooped to this..." "What?" "Artie gave it to me. I got all of these from Artie. New Directions has him and their AV club record their performances so they can watch them, Wes. I sometimes help Artie cut a few into videos for the members who have YouTube pages and want them. That's how I found out." Jeff instantly cut the council member off and defended himself. "And I get copies of ones I like, or whatever, to listen to because I like their version or vocals. Not for any other reason. By the way, they aren't our competition anymore," Jeff reminded, slightly offended that Wes would think he'd do anything so underhanded. "Maybe this will be a shock to the rest of you, but Kurt is my friend and his brothers are my friends. Artie and I have a lot in common with our love of film, so we sort of bonded over it. Sorry if that bothers you, but even if you had wanted, I wouldn't have given you these to use against them." Nick rubbed his boyfriend's back, trying to calm him down while glaring at their erstwhile leader. Wesley at least had the decency to look ashamed at his assumption. Thad perked up suddenly. So if they aren't competition anymore, does that mean we can see these now? I mean, you have non-competition stuff of performances we've never seen, right? Some of them were of Santana, you said? It wasn't a big secret Thad had a bit of a crush on the Latina. And Songbird too, right? You said you had his stuff. David whipped around. The council member had always loved Kurt's voice and been quite vocal about losing it when they had. Much to Kurt's boyfriend's annoyance, if the group was honest. David had even been the first to dub Kurt as the Warblers' songbird. Nick nods, grinning. You guys have to see Sam's favorite. I think he keeps it on his phone. He claims it's to remind him of the old Kurt, but I think it's to perv on how fierce Kurt comes off. Nick snickers, gaining a smack from Jeff but a round of wide-eyed looks from the others in the room. It goes mostly unnoticed how the words cause Sebastian to perk up a little. Who first? Jeff asks, pulling the folder back up and revealing a plethora of various vids. Some labeled by song alone, others with name and song. They agree to start with the one that is now the most curious, Sam's favorite, and they are all even more intrigued when they see its title is Kurt's duet. When Lujazhad is finished, the room erupts into applause and cat calls despite the performer not being there. Oh my God. How did we not get that? Wesley yelled, flinging his arms out. We could have. That is insane. The others were seemingly as blown away. Guys, at that point he hadn't really been a target by that Karofsky guy, and Blaine hadn't been telling him to tone it down. Jeff shrugged with a sigh. Hold up. Who said what, now? It was Sebastian, sitting up. He had been shocked by what he'd seen on screen as much as some of the others in the room. Sure, he'd known the countertenor was talented in his own right, but he'd never seen it before. More to that, he'd never been given the dirty on things that obviously were common knowledge. Well, not that you would care, but Blaine felt that Kurt could be a bit strong to take. He was just trying to keep him safe. Kurt was pretty, out. You've called him plenty on being stereotypical, but he's sort of toned down since being with Blaine. He doesn't throw himself out there as much or... Shaking his head, Sebastian scowled over at Thad, who was busy trying to defend Blaine's behavior. If he felt like that, why the frack was he dating Kurt? The others looked around, frowning. Look, it is one thing for me, the guy trying to get into his boyfriend's pants, to point out his obvious defaults. I think it's kind of different for the guy dating him, and supposedly in love with him, to do it. How am I the only guy in this room who finds that fracked up? You aren't the only one, Sebastian, but it isn't exactly our place to say anything. Kurt was happy and loved Blaine. No one wanted to ruin that. It was the first time he seemed really happy after coming to Dalton. You weren't there. You didn't know. Trent snapped at the lacrosse captain. You don't get it. Songbird was close to most of our hearts. It was hard to get close to him because Blaine was just always there. Some of us, like Dave and Wes, then Nikki and Jeffy, managed to get close enough to let the rest of us get to at least know a bit about him. The junior sighed, shrugging, running his hand through his hair. I mean, come on. I don't care what you think. The guy is hot. I'm bi. Openly bi, and I'd have made a move if I thought I had a shot, but it was painfully obvious he only had eyes for a rock star. It's not like there weren't a few guys who wanted to punch Blaine in the face for that whole unsexy fiasco. Michael smirked, remembering with pleasure how he'd fracked the sophomore up in Fight Club that week. Myself in particular took great pleasure in kicking his pint-sized ass. Ugh, I've never even seen anyone as devastated as Kurt was that week. Baby penguin, my ass. The senior scoffed, getting a small chorus of agreements. Okay, hang on. I'm pretty sure you're straight, or at least your girlfriend would say so. Sebastian blinked, feeling like he was falling through some kind of rabbit hole. What the frack is going on? Wesley looked at David and both began laughing. Dude, I hate to break it to you, but if you keep your eyes open you'll get it. Songbird is the exception to the rule for most of us. He smirks, sitting back, chuckling at the absolutely appalled look on Sebastian's face. Come on, Jeff, show some more. He settled down, leaning into Dave. Most of the other boys were getting fairly comfortable. When you spent 90% of your time at an all-boys school, you became fairly comfortable with platonic male affection. Cuddling amongst the Warblers was not an uncommon thing. Chuckling, Jeff played some more of his favorites, doing a solo here and there, but trying, instead, to show the camaraderie and friendship New Directions had. He wanted his fellow Warblers to understand what he already knew. They never stood a chance as long as the group put their all into it. First came a Name of Love/Free Your Mind mashup, and then a personal favorite, Heads Will Roll, which had a few of the guys up and dancing or jamming in their seats. Then Born This Way made its way onto the screen and a round of whistles went up as Kurt's shirt came off, revealing his fairly well-defined arms. Frack. Why does he wear so many layers? He hides a really great body. Marcus chided, gaining him a firm smack with a cushion across the head. Ow. What? You were thinking it too. He glared up at Sebastian. And it's not like he's with Blaine anymore. Far as I'm concerned, Kurt's up for grabs, and the rest of you guys are just jealous at those of us who are out and have a chance. He smirked, wiggling his brows and hissing when he got hit with a number of empty cans. Dude, just try to get through Finn, Puck, and then Sam. Good luck. That's not even mentioning the girls. After they find out all the crap Blaine pulled, no one is getting near their boy again. Nick sighed, sadly. Kurt might have to join the priesthood by default. Well, that would be a crying shame. Cliff sighed, laughing. My little brother will never get over the loss. His 12-year-old brother had recently come out, citing his intention to marry one Kurt E. Hummel as his reason, much to the amusement of his siblings and horror of his parents. Kurt was far more popular than he knew amongst the halls of Dalton and the families of the Warblers. Twice as much since Bert's successful run for Congress. After a number of videos, David finally turns to Nick. So, let's get down to why we're really here. You implied you had some information about what we might have in store for us from New Directions? Washington-worthy scandals were your exact words. He raised a brow, believing Nick had been exaggerating. Sitting back against the headboard and pulling his boyfriend against his chest, Nick frowns a little. Where to start? Well, Babygate is a good place. Jeff pipes up, looking up to Nick, unaware of the shocked looks on the faces of their fellow Warblers. Wesley coughs. I'm sorry. Did you just say Babygate? Yup. See, at the time, Quinn was Finn's girlfriend, but she slept with Puck because she felt fat. Puck was Finn's best friend. She got pregnant, but told Finn it was his baby. Later the truth came out, like in the middle of Glee Club. I'm pretty sure it was Rachel who told. She was trying to get with Finn. Nick explained. Which leads us to the Great Finchel scandal. Jeff snickered, but was cut off from continuing. Thad was waving a hand in the air. I'm sorry, wait. Isn't Puck living with Finn now? After sexing up his girlfriend and getting her pregnant? Yeah, they made up. I mean, if Kurt can forgive them for years of bullying. And they've both made out with Rachel and Quinn, so I guess they share something there. Oh. And slept with Santana. I don't get it. Maybe it's a straight guy thing. Jeff frowned, wrinkling his nose. Shaking his head and laughing, Trent assured the blonde. No. Pretty sure that's a crazy them thing. Is it me, or does New Directions sound really incestuous? Flint whispered, worriedly. Snorting, Nick piped up. Dude, Sam has dated Santana and Quinn also. So I mean, those guys all live together and have all dated the same girls. I think Sam has only escaped Rachel because of Kurt. Wait, what does Kurt have to do with it? Sebastian piped up, frowning. You've mentioned him and that Sam kid like 3 times tonight. Glancing at each other nervously, they knew there was only so much they could share. The duo sighed. Kurt and Sam have had kind of a close friendship ever since Sam moved in. He's not weird about Kurt being gay the way Finn was, and doesn't mind listening to him talk about Blaine and his relationship, like the other guys do. So, they are kind of closer than the other two. They tried to shrug it off, but Sebastian could just tell there was more to the story than he was getting. If something were up with Kurt and this Sam kid, that could be a problem. Stopping, he frowned. Wait, why would that be a problem for him? It was not a problem. Sitting back, he scowled. Nope. Not his problem at all. As far as Puck was concerned, it was way too early to be up on a Saturday morning. As always, he was. Once Rachel and her dads found out he was avoiding temple due to avoiding his mom, they'd insisted on taking him to theirs. He had to admit their place of worship was far more open and accepting than his mom's, and he often enjoyed himself once he was actually there. That didn't stop waking up Saturday morning from being fracking horrible. To make matters worse, Rachel had taken to coming over to ensure he was up and give him a ride. Though, she usually bypassed him and made straight for Finn's room to cuddle. That morning, however, Puck was running late. Still in the bathroom, he heard Rachel check that he was awake, and then the click of Finn's door. He moved to dress, and over his own singing, had never heard her leaving Finn's room. It wasn't until he heard her shriek of "Oh my God!" that he realized just where Rachel Berry had wandered. Both Finn and Puck were in the hall, instantly looking at one another in panic. They rushed down the stairs toward Kurt's room. Rake, it is way too early for this. Go away. Kurt muttered, pulling a pillow over his head and trying to cuddle back into Sam. Sam, who was openly scowling at the intruder, yelled. Out. Now. He growled. For all of his sweetness and smiles, Sam Evans was not a morning person. Together, Puck and Finn worked to gather the tiny girl out of the basement as quietly as possible in hopes of not further irritating the beasts. Wait, I thought Kurt only wore silk pajamas. Rachel blinked, frowning, as she was manhandled up the stairs. Kurt began giggling against the warmth of Sam's neck. Leave it to Rachel to have that be her problem with what she found in his room that morning. There would be a come-to-Jesus meeting with the Jewish princess. Kurt snickered. Once temple ended it would be on, but, for now, it was early Saturday morning and he was warm, getting Sam cuddles. Time to go back to sleep, he decided, and finally settled back down, much to Sam's endless gratitude. It was Monday and Glee was just settling after the class bell rang. Mr. Schuster turned to his whiteout board, preparing to write out this week's lesson, but was stopped short by the squeak of sneakers and the snapped-out call of porcelain. Instantly, Kurt, Santana, Brittany, Quinn and, much to her dismay, Mercedes stood up at attention, causing a pleased smirk to appear on Coach Sylvester's face. At ease, ladies. I've come for Hummel. Sue, we're in the middle of class. You can't just show up and interrupt. Will sighed, shaking his head, as he moved toward the offensive woman. I'm sure Kurt would like to focus on Glee, since we have a competition to prepare for. So, if you could just leave and let us get back to our class, I'd really appreciate that. He was trying to be nice. Sneering, Sue gave a fake laugh, even throwing her head back. Oh, you poor greased-haired, sad, little man. Don't be ridiculous. You and your band of rejects won't win because, just like every other year, they will choke. Don't think I haven't heard about your supposedly star soloist and her fantastic showing at her NYADA call. She scoffed, with a shake of her head. Gaping at the teacher, who was openly and actively not only insulting the Glee Club, but insulting and bullying a student, the Warblers watched in awestruck horror as the woman continued. Now, I have something important to discuss with Lady Hummel here. Turning to Kurt, she plastered a smile on her face. I can see that the rumors are true. It's the return of pants so tight they must be giving your ovaries quite a run for their money. Since you've finally decided to rid yourself of Bilbo Baggins over here, I would like to cordially invite you back to the Cheerios. Effective immediately. As captain, of course. Help me take that Nationals trophy again. Spinning once more, her tennis shoes give an irritating screech. She headed for the door. Now, let's go to my office and get you your new uniform. I had something specially made for you. Coach, as flattered as I am, I'm not sure returning to Cheerios is the best fit for me. Kurt tried not to be offended by her earlier words and had kicked Puck for snickering and telling Santana that he was co-opting that name for Blaine from now on. Oh, really? Even if it comes with a coveted letter signed by me for your transcripts? She raised a brow, and all three of the cheerleaders gasped. Sue was notoriously stingy with her recommendation letters. Grabbing his bag, Kurt smiled. Right. I'll be back, Mr. Shu. He followed after the cheer coach and could be heard warning. I am not wearing a skirt. This new uniform better not be a skirt. I think Kurt looks hot in a skirt. Why won't he wear one? Brittany pouted at Santana. Wait, does that mean my dolphin is back on the squad? Her eyes lit up in excitement as she clapped. Grinning like a shark, the Latina nodded. Yup. Looks like Twinkerbell is back. Can't wait to see him in uniform again. It looked good on him. Her brows wiggled. Wait, when was Kurt on the Cheerios? Sam frowned, having not been there that year. Finn shook his head. Dude, it was before you came, but things got pretty freaky for a while. I can't believe he's going back. Wait, Hummel was a cheerleader before? Trent asked in surprise. This was all news to him. How could Blaine have never told them about that? It was certainly something he'd brag about if his girlfriend had been one. Yeah, man, he won nationals that year by singing in French for like ever, while cheering. It was crazy. Mike piped up suddenly. We all watched it. Eyes wide, Sebastian choked on his own spit. Kurt was a cheerleader, which in and of itself was just fracking hot, but he sang in French while cheering? Sebastian was pretty sure he knew what his next wet dream would be about. Glancing round to see if anyone had noticed the slight cough, he caught sight of Blaine, who was clenching his fists and did not look happy about this new development. Seb raised a brow and wondered why. Hadn't the little guy been the one to break up with Kurt? What could his problem be?